So I've come down here, got this dead stick, and I just made 2 7 notches. And this one, I'm going to pound into the ground, and with this, I'm going to use this as a trigger to see if I can catch a fish out here today. Now, always check your local laws. I have to stay close by. I've got to attend this line at all times. Now, this here is for survival. And I just want to share this, that it may help somebody one day if they are in a survival situation. I'm not going to go over the laws here, but make sure that you're legally allowed to do this. Most places you may not be. So I've got that here sharpened. I can pound that in the ground. Got my 7 notch there. What I'm going to do is make a notch above that, and that's going to be for my line to tie to. Get rid of this old bark. This is still, it's just a dead tree, but it still has enough strength to hold the fish, which is very important. So I'm just V-cutting this all the way around, just to create a spot for my line. Now you could make multiples of these and set them in an area if you was in a survival situation, and you could leave them unattended, although I'm not permitted to at this spot, so I will be here the entire time. I'm going to get these made up and I'll show you when I'm done. Now, here's some line I have, and this here is 17-pound test, but it's a thinner diameter than most at this strength. So what I'm going to do, I want to throw that out at least 20 feet out into the water, if not more. So I'm going to take like 30 feet and see if I can throw it out that far. Now, how I'm going to figure that out is if I stretch my arms out as far as they'll go, that's roughly 6 feet. I'm going to take 5 of those. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That should give me roughly 30 feet. On this stick here, I'm going to tie in this notch down below with a Canadian jam knot. And then up here in this notch, I'm going to tie it to a branch up top. So I've got that set now, and it runs up to this branch right here. You don't always get a tree or a sapling besides the brook. So that there will allow enough pressure for when this sets off, this will act as a rod and it will jerk back, and then allow the fish to fight a little bit without, you know, just being a set line, and it could break your line. This here actually acts as a rod. I'm going to find a fairly small hook here, because right in this area I know there's a lot of small fish, so it's better to catch a lot of small fish if you can, because you may not get bigger fish. So I'm just going to put on a single hook. In my area, in the inland waters, I can actually use 3 hooks on this line. Although, I'm just going to use 1 today. So, I've got a hook and 2 split shot. I'm going to throw a worm on this and cast this out. So I've got a worm on there, and I've got most of my line in my hand. I'm going to switch hands actually for me. And I just want the rest of the line off the ground, so when I throw this, it's not getting caught up in the ground. I've got my trigger right there, so I'm going to throw it out, and then I'll set my trigger. Got to get that sweet spot. Got that rounded over so it's very sensitive right now. This type of fishing, leaving it on bottom, is sometimes the only way you can catch some fish. Although, it can take a lot longer because it's not like a flashy bait going through the water that can attract attention a lot quicker. They usually will smell this and search it out. So it takes a lot longer a lot of times. Unless you can know where there's a few fish and you throw it in and you get lucky. But I can look out there right now. It's not very deep, and I've just got to wait until the fish comes along and takes interest. I also want to mention that this has a fair amount of tension, but not much. It's when it springs up, it will spring back with probably about a couple feet of pull to set the hook. But you don't want something a lot of tension, because even with a fishing rod, you just give it a good little yank. And that's what you're trying to achieve here. If you just give this one heck of a yank, you can either pull it out of its mouth or just rip it completely out of its jaw. So the tension is very important on your pole that you have it tied to. I'm going to check my bait. Bait hasn't been touched yet. Clean it up a little bit and try casting it out again. I'm going to try casting over that way because there may be some fish in around those weeds and such there. You want this pretty tight so when they start biting, you're going to set this off. Because the small ones will just strip this before they ever set it off. That'll do. Hopefully over in that area, might get better luck. Like I said, you'd set these around different areas. In here, I know there's small perch and such, but if you can get a lake that has, you know, filled full of crappie and such, I would already have fish, I'm sure. Bass-filled lake and so on, yeah, for sure. Right in front of me, right here, is probably a dozen little 1-inch minnows. Well, there's nothing over there at my bait. I've been here a while and nothing's touched it yet. And that's the way it is. A lot of times you'll leave these and just set them all the way around different locations. They don't take up much line really, and all you need is a hook and a couple sinkers and some bait. Throw it out there. Maybe if I had left this, or if I did overnight, I may have the bigger fish coming in, because right now there's not a lot of cover, so it won't be really combing this area into the shallows. So I'm not going to do that, of course. I'm going to take this apart, but these have been used and they can be very productive. Well, I really wanted to show how this worked, but this is reality. This is fishing, and anybody that goes fishing pretty well knows the reality of fishing. You don't always catch. And so even in a survival situation and you're doing this stuff, it can be very frustrating, because it doesn't always mean that you're gonna get fish. How this would work is I'm gonna tug on the line gently and show you how this will set the hook. Now I know that does not have a whole lot of pressure, so it's not going to whip the hook right back at me. I've got 30 feet of line here, and I'm going to set this off. I've got this attached right up here to this line, comes down, hooks to here, and then the other line comes out. So the way this is going to work is the line's going to pull down this way, and then it's going to come off. And it just gives enough of just enough that it's going to tug the line, just like that. And then it's hanging up in the air, you know you've got something. Now what I can do with this is I can just wrap my line around here, go to another spot, take my bottom stick, shove that into the ground, and set up in another area. small little split right here in the end that I can stick that in, and that will hold that line there. So I've got that. I've got this. Now I could go to another area, because right now this is not panning out. Hope this gave you some ideas, and it was a bust, but that's fishing. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.